Good morning, boys and girls. It's Quivers Crab Cake here. Boys and girls, today we're going to read a story about a little monkey, and his name is Curious George. Boys and girls, the reason that he has that name Curious George, because George was always into something because he was so inquisitive, always trying to find out what's going on and doing things. So, boys and girls, today we're going to read Curious George and the Birthday Surprise. And this book, boys and girls, is written by Margaret and H.A. Rays. Boys and girls, we're going to sit George down and we're going to read, okay? Curious George and the Birthday Surprise. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today is a special day. The man with the yellow hat told George at breakfast, "I have a surprise planned and lots to do to get ready. You can help me by staying out of trouble." George was so happy to help. Later, while George was looking out the window and being very good, he heard some tinkling music. It was coming from an ice cream truck. George watched as a whole line of children and their dogs enjoyed some ice cream treats. It looked fun. But when the ice cream truck moved on, George forgot all about staying out of trouble and went to find some fun of his own. In the living room, George found noisemakers and hats and games. Could this be part of his friend's surprise? Before George could find out, he spotted some streamers, balloons, and colored tissues. He could not resist. Decorating was easy for a little monkey. Still, George was curious about the surprise. And what was the good smell coming from the kitchen? George followed his nose. Mmm, it was a cake, and it looked as good as it smelled. All it needed was frosting. George had seen his friend making frosting before, but today his friend was busy. Maybe George could help. He could frost the cake himself. First, George put a bit of this in the mixing bowl. Next, he added a bit of that. Then he turned the mixer on. The frosting whirled around and around. It was whirling too fast, but when George tried to stop the mixer, it only went faster and faster and faster. George lifted the beaters out of the bowl. Frosting flew everywhere. Boys and girls, George has a mess there. Poor George. He did not mean to make such a mess. He had only wanted to help. Now, how could he clean up the sticky kitchen? Just then, George heard the tinkling music again. The ice cream truck was coming back up the street, and George had an idea. Quickly, he opened the door. George invited all of the dogs in for a treat. In no time, the kitchen was clean as a whistle. When the dogs finished their snack, George took them back outside. The ice cream truck was still there, and so was his friend. "George," said the man with the yellow hat, "I've been looking for you. It's time for the surprise." George had found hats, games, decorations, and a cake. He was curious what the surprise. What was the surprise? A party? Yes, it was a party. George was happy to see all of his friends. They were glad to see George too. What great decorations, Bill said. What a lots of presents, said Betsy. Why don't you play some games with the guests, George? The man with the yellow hat suggested. I have one more thing to do. When George's friend came back, he was carrying a cake covered in candles. This wasn't just any party, it was a birthday party. But George was still curious. Whose birthday was it? He watched to see who would blow out the candles. The man with the yellow hat put the cake down right in front of George. That was a surprise. It was George's birthday. The party was for him. Everyone sang happy birthday. Then George took a deep breath. What do you think he's going to do, boys and girls? And made a wish. Happy birthday, George. So, boys and girls, George was being so curious about what was going on. And it was actually, boys and girls, a birthday party for him. A surprise party. All right, boys and girls, that's it for our story today. But remember, yesterday I told you that every day, because this is Black History Month, the month of February, we will be reading about a great African American. And boys and girls, for those of you that might not know, this is a picture of Barack Obama, and he was the 44th President of the United States. And boys and girls, he was the first African American president. Let me read you a little bit about Mr. Obama. Barack Obama served as the 44th President of the United States. His story is the American story. Values from the heartland, a middle-class upbringing in a strong family, hard-working education as the means of getting ahead, and the conviction that a life so blessed should be lived in service to others. When Barack Obama was elected president in 2008, he became the first African American to hold the office. The framers of the Constitution always hoped that our leadership would not be limited to Americans of wealth or family connections. Subject to the prejudices of their times, many of them owned slaves. Most would not have foreseen an African American president. Obama's father, Barack Sr., a Kenyan economist, met his mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, when both were students in Hawaii, while Barack was born on August 4, 1961. They later divorced, and Barack's mother married a man from Indonesia, where he spent his early childhood. Before fifth grade, he returned to Honolulu to live with his maternal grandparents and attend a school on scholarship. In his memoir, Dreams from My Father, 1995, Obama described the complexities of discovering his identity in adolescence. After 2 years of Occidental College in Los Angeles, he transferred to Columbia University, where he studied political science and international relations. Following graduation in 1983, Obama worked in New York City, then became a community organizer on the south side of Chicago, coordinated with churches to improve housing conditions and set up job training programs in a community hit hard by steel mill closures. In 1988, he went to Harvard Law School, where he attracted national attention as the first African American president of the Harvard Law Review. Returning to Chicago, he joined a small law firm specializing in civil rights. In 1992, Obama married Michelle Robinson, a lawyer who had also excelled at Harvard Law. Their daughters, Malia and Sasha, were born in 1998 and 2001, respectively. Obama was elected to the Illinois Senate in 1996 and then to the United States Senate in 2004. At the Democratic National Convention that summer, He delivered a much acclaimed keynote address. Some Putin's instantly pronounced him a future president, but most did not expect it to happen for some time. Nevertheless, in 2008, he was elected over Arizona Senator John McCain by 365 to 173 electoral votes. So, boys and girls, Mr. Obama was our 44th president, and he was the first African American president. Boys and girls, as I told you before, we will be talking about a famous African American, whether they still are living or whether they've passed on, each day after our story time. I hope you enjoyed this segment, boys and girls, and see you the next time. Bye-bye.